Caleb. 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 Speak. Have you ever been stressed?
Me?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Just sometimes?
Maybe. Yeah, sometimes.
Well, stop it! What up, everyone? We're just being a little silly. But, so today we're going to talk about. Actually, we're going to start a series where we're going to do a little bit more research behind our topic. And the series is going to be what is your capacity? And today we're going to kind of hone in on how people or how we handle stress and how Canada is doing as a whole. Um, but yeah, it's a big thing going on right now, honestly, with the the stress of COVID and government making certain decisions that people don't always agree with. Um, and so I think it's a good thing to kind of, I guess, get a conversation going with regarding stress. And what do you think the current stress level of Canada is right now?
Can I just say, Anthony,
What?
when you said we're gonna do a little bit research, I feel like that doesn't go very well with us being idiots.
Well, I didn't do any research.
Oh. Well,
I'm
great, because that makes this podcast more authentic. But yeah, I think
here for
COVID
comedic
has brought
relief.
up yeah. COVID has brought up a lot of stress levels, and found was that like 3 out of 4 people in Canada, they when they are stressed, and they've actually never like gone online to search for help or search for different information to kind of help them get better.
Mhm.
So it's prevalent that are dealing with a lot of stress, but people don't necessarily go out of their way to find what to do with it.
Yeah, like I don't know. Every day, like you can you, people go through stress every day. It's not uncommon. It's not like you go through stress at work. You go through stress if you're in school. You go through stress at home with your family, with your spouse, so on and so forth. Like stress isn't a new thing, but for some reason lately stress is a big thing. Like there's a lot more awareness going on regarding stress, mental health, and I think that has to do with the current state of the world, honestly.
Yeah.
But
So like,
go on.
what small things do you think would stress you out? Like just some of the most ridiculous things stress you out.
Like the minute things,
Yeah, just like in life in general. Like
like
what
pet
are some
peeves.
things
I
that
don't know.
stress you out? Like for example, sometimes small talk stress me out a little bit. It's just like, okay, I don't know this person, but
So
I have to make yeah.
so one thing that really stresses me out, and it's so stupid, is when I sit at restaurants. Well, when you could sit at restaurants, is having people sit behind me. Like
Oh, okay.
it just makes me on edge. Like I don't know who you are. I need to have my back against the wall or something, and it's it's the little things like that.
Yeah. I always pick aisle seat um
Yes,
at the
yes.
booth. I'm like, I don't care. Like I'll go last. If you have to go to the washroom, I'll get out of the way. I don't care. I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah, like I even do that like in movie theaters. I try to sit on the ends.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I miss movie theaters.
Yeah.
I don't miss paying
AMC
for
to
them.
the moon. Anyway,
Oh yeah, you were talking about AMC in your
it's the
that one
season.
video.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, what else? I whenever I take out Logan, I'm like weirdly stressed about either someone breaking in or like did I leave the gas stove on or like something like
yeah, but
did I leave the water
that's
on?
that's probably because you have been broken into, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand that. But like, I don't know. I see videos like on TikTok and Instagram where uh, I don't know what their age is, but actually like series of videos like people handle stress differently, and like there's a lot of videos where people are just not handling stress well, and I don't know if that's just because of the generational differences or like
Yeah.
or they didn't teach their parents didn't teach them how to handle stress. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I definitely think there is a prevalent distinction between how each generations cope with stress. So whether we're talking about baby boomers, Gen X or millennials or Gen Zs, there's definitely not only there are differences in how what kind of stress they deal with in life, but it's also different how they deal with them.
Like, what do you think boomers have to deal with, honestly? And well, let's classify. Like, what are boomers?
Boomers, I would definitely. My parents are boomers. My dad was born in the '60s. My mom was born in the '60s. So I would say anyone born
Like
in the
before
'50s.
this? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like right after the war, maybe a little bit after. All the way to like 19. What would you say?
Well,
1980.
I'm maybe yeah, because isn't millennials are considered uh what was it 1990 or because like I'm on the cusp of being a millennial because I'm born in 1990.
I'm
But
at the very tail end of a millennial,
I
like
am.
90. Yeah, I think millennial is a little bit bigger in the gap. And I think there's another generation we're missing was Gen X, which is like,
Are you Gen
like
X then?
no, no, like we are millennials.
Okay.
Gen X's are like people who are in their 30s and 40s right now, or
Oh,
40s and 50, yeah, 30s and 40s, yeah,
okay. And then Gen Zs are all the
all
youngins.
the Fortnite kids, yeah.
The Fortnite kids. Oh, that's funny. So now that we got like the numbers kind of because like I always wondered why am I a millennial and not like because I'm so close to whatever the other one is, Gen X. At least I think I am. I don't know. But so going from top of the list down, what are some stresses that boomers have? Do you think like
I
when to retire?
That's true. That is one of my. I like. I get. I guess the only way I can sort of relay that is looking at my parents and what they deal with, and I do think that baby boomers arguably, arguably had it the best. And I know they tried to say a lot of the things to our generation, saying, "Hey, like you have everything. How come you screw it up?" We can get into that a little bit later, but I do think they got it the best. But um,
Oh yeah, I could go on a huge tangent about that.
yeah.
Oh,
I do feel bad for them though because, like, for example, parenting. Like, let's say they didn't do well in parenting, and I feel like a lot of baby boomers didn't do the best job in raising their their kids, because there's not a lot of resources that they grew up on. Whereas for us, we could Google or we could find things on the internet and find out the best way to do it. But for them, it was they had to figure it out by themselves.
that's fair. But like you also have to remember back then, all they had to do was go to work, save their money, and buy a house and just do that. And they're because their jobs were so good. Like now, you have to work three jobs just to have a house.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like stocks almost tenfolded from like 70s all the way to 2000s, whereas from 2000 to like where we are now, it only like quadrupled, which is still a lot,
Yeah,
but
that's still.
in comparison to how much of a growth they had just in terms of money,
Mhm.
we're a lot at a disadvantage. And on top of that, we have tuition, which is like insanely high. I think it's like 3 or 4 times higher than it was back then for them. And they bought like more than one houses, more than what they need, which would make the housing price a lot more expensive. Like it's just a lot harder for our generation, I feel like.
I don't really see like even Gen X, like I don't really see them having too many stresses
Mhm.
because like they could learn a trade, which you still could learn a trade, but if you learned a trade, you're like kind of the upper class where you make like you're well off and you do your work, you work hard, you go home and you just live life. But for like millennials, I feel like our the average job is what, like 42,000, 45,000 a year.
Yeah.
And if you're debt free, which most, what, 80% of Canada is not.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
would argue more than that. Yeah.
yeah, more than that. I mean, debt free as it like consumer debt free.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you like a house is a necessary debt, and sometimes a
Yeah.
car is a necessary debt. Um, but yeah, like we we can't afford all that stuff because like the housing market's gone up. We have debt because we were told that we need a degree or a diploma or whatever to validate that we should be working at XYZ job. So it's
Yeah, and
I
just like I also don't think this is like becoming a rant at this point, but I also don't feel like they understand what it's like to compete at this level because like they say, "Oh, like I made sure that you went through college. So why can't you get a job?" But
yeah.
so did every other parents that raise their kids. So you're competing against so many people that are fully educated and the number of jobs isn't great all that great either because you're not retiring anytime soon, right?
And on top of that, like they don't understand the work that we do. Like my parents don't have no clue what I do. They don't
Well,
understand it. They don't understand
wise, right?
computers. Pardon?
Right. Like computer wise, right?
Yeah.
Internet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they don't I tell them like this is what I do and they're like why aren't you working for a factory or a trade?
Mm,
Well, cuz this is what I'm good at. So, like
yeah.
I don't it's frustrating at times, honestly.
So what do they so I think it's pretty obvious what for us what millennials are stressed about. Maybe we haven't laid it out, but what are some of the things that baby boomers are stressed about then? What do you like from your observation, like what are some of their concerns
As a parent or just like as a human being?
as a human being?
Their investments crashing, I guess.
Okay.
The government screwing them over somehow,
Mm.
like with their pension and stuff like that. Their health.
So, health. Okay, so you think health and retirement is what they stress about?
I would think so, because like right now, my both my parents are retired,
Yeah,
and all they do is worry about health right now. That's it. That's all they do.
right,
And they either watch CNN for 5 million hours a day, or they try to get outside and be active and do other stuff.
right.
But every time I talk to them, it's always like health related, and I'm like, can I just enjoy my time with you? Like, my goodness. But I think that's the biggest issue right now because of COVID and stuff. Is the biggest stress for older or the boomer generation is
Yeah.
health. I
Mhm.
think I think that'd be pretty accurate, right?
Right.
Excuse me. yeah, I can't really think of any other. Do you have any other like anything to add to that for boomers? Can't really think.
I was gonna say finance, which is I think what you said. I can't really think of anything else other than that. Like retirement, they're at a really good position. Like
Yeah.
they have good pension. They have um
Okay, boomer.
like do you think I do think though in comparison to maybe now we're talking about millennials a little bit, like in comparison to boomers and millennials are definitely more stressed. But I also think that part of it is that we're just maybe more self-aware than boomers.
We also get paid
Almost to
less.
a fault.
Like the dollar then to dollar now is like completely different.
Hmm.
Like they could live off like solidly live off of $45,000 a year and they'd be like well off. Where now it's $45,000 is like an entry level. Well, it's what is it 30,000 to 45,000 is considered entry level,
Yeah.
or 42,000 or something like that. So like their dollar amount is greater than our dollar amount. So that adds subconscious stress right there.
Yeah.
Like you could work 12-hour shifts and make what 12 grand bi-weekly, right? Or not 12 grand, 1200,
Yeah,
12
I was gonna
grand.
say that's
12
a
grand,
lot.
12 grand would be amazing.
Yeah.
No problems here. But no, it's yeah. So like I think our biggest issue is the would it be rate of inflation? Would that be accurate?
Um, maybe not inflation, but more so how we are almost set up for failure.
Why do you say that?
Because how are you gonna graduate with $50,000 worth of tuition owing, and on top of that, getting paid $50,000 per year, where
Okay.
you have to pay rent and you have basically nothing left, and to save up for a house, it'll take you 10 years.
Oh,
So it's
don't
just
even get me started on rent. My goodness.
yeah, and also like you said, yeah, rent payment is so high too, right? So it's like we're barely keeping our neck up, and like I feel like boomers had this sense of like at least hope, but for millennials, it's like you're set in a box, and then you're told that if you do this long enough, then you'll be out of the box. But like we don't really get to envision what our future is going to be.
Yeah, it's aggravating actually. Like it's stressful.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So I think as a millennial, like the biggest thing that I stress about is money. Just because it's an upward battle and there's no end. And
just keeps getting
it's tough.
steeper.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah. Like I've been playing with like crypto and day trading and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it's honestly like it's not that complicated. It's just time consuming. I would say like you need to know a lot of information about
Mhm.
who you're investing in and like where to invest at certain points during the day and stuff like that. Especially with crypto because it's so volatile.
Yeah,
But like that's not gonna make you millions. It's not gonna unless you're really lucky.
yeah.
Like I put in a bit of play money. I only put in like I think it's $300 of just to screw around with it. And in 1 month I made $40 on the 30 or on the 300.
Wow.
Like
That's like yeah, 12% gain right there.
yeah, but it's a
30%.
lot of work.
Yeah.
it's like trading and buying and selling at certain times of the day and stuff like that, and it's exhausting. Like, whereas boomers, they have like a set it and forget it plan. Like,
Yeah, I think it's like another concern of mine is that like when baby boomers actually do retire, we're gonna go into a deflationary period where we're not gonna have a lot of people in the workforce. And I feel like even nowadays, a lot of millennials are ditching their jobs. I don't know if that's true, but like I'm hearing from like everywhere that like, oh, like I left this job for a reason. I left that job, and even at a higher pay, six-figure salary, they like I didn't see the purpose of it, so I left the job. So like we're sort of kind of finding meaning more so than money.
yeah, actually, yeah, I watched a video earlier today. What was it? There's people leaving their six-figure tech jobs.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and they left it, and because they were overworked, like 10 to 16-hour days
Yeah,
consistently. Their companies
yeah,
don't give a shit about them.
yeah,
They're just like, oh yeah, have unlimited days off. We'll give you your meals, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you can't take those days off. Like you
right.
feel like you have to work harder.
Yeah,
And so like back in the boomer days, it's you work hard, you go home. Here it's like you break your neck, you then you continue working, and then you, you get a 30-minute nap and then continue working, and then you could go home.
mhm,
So it's I can see why people are leaving their jobs,
mhm.
especially like six-figure jobs. Um, and a lot of people are trying to start their own businesses too. I see that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's impossible to be almost impossible to work a 9 to 5 job and be wealthy.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and starting a business is definitely one way ticket out of that for sure.
Yeah, and like to segue, well, I don't want to segue into Gen Zs yet, but like the TikTok realm, there's
Right.
so much money in TikTok.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that after. But
Yeah.
like for me, I'm starting, or I have started two businesses on top of working for our company that we work for,
Hmm.
and it's a lot of work. It's it takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
but I put in the work now, and then later on I just laugh. Oh,
Mm.
not that bad. Like, do you have anything going on? Like, as a millennial, are you do you find it that you need to start your own business on the side?
Not really. Um, I I got really into stock trading. So the moment I saw the possibility of turning um a small sum of amount and compounded year over year, and then letting that be a significant amount in 20 years or 30 years. I
Hmm.
saw that as my own quote unquote business. And investing alone is a lot of work too, because you have to always know what's going on in the economy. You have to always know how to value a company, how to look at financial sheets. Um, so that's sort of my business, quote unquote. Like yeah, I think of stock market as my own business.
So now that you say this, what compared to before you started trading stocks to now, how what's your stress levels like?
Oh, I'm definitely more stressed. Um, because I didn't do any stocks 2 3 years ago.
Hmm.
And then now I'm heavily into stocks, and it's funny that you bring that up because I sometimes I forget how stressed I am because I'm just so caught up in it, and like it is literally my future. I'm building my future in the stock market, and it's a very stressful like undertaking.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, re- regardless of what generation they are or how old they are, they forget to stop for a minute and just be.
Hmm.
And like I've showed my girlfriend how to do this because she's very caring and she's very kind and she likes and loves to help people.
Right.
But in doing that, she causes more stress on her body than anything else. So I taught her like there's times where you just need to just stop and admire what's around you. Just breathe, sit, have some coffee, have some water, whatever you want, and just look and appreciate. And a lot of people, I find like for you, I think you would actually benefit from it.
Yeah.
Because then,
I definitely see that as a need for my part, and it's something that I struggle with all the time because I'm a go-getter and I don't cut myself loose like a lot of
slack.
loose ends. Yeah. So that yeah,
So,
maybe we could talk a little bit about that when we talk about like how you personally deal with stress and what the best way
mhm,
we think is in terms of dealing with stress. But for like Gen Z, then we talked about boomers and
yeah.
millennials. What do you think Generation Z, meaning anyone born around the year 2000 onwards, what do they struggle with? What's their source of stress, do you think?
Do you want my actual answer or do you want me to be
Yes.
politically correct?
Let's be politically correct here.
Oh, that's no fun.
Let's find the middle ground. I'll trust your judgment.
They're all about their feelings, man. They're all
What do you
about
mean?
their feelings. Well, they wake up and they're like, I don't know who I am today. Or the life is hard. I have to pay bills. Like the amount of Gen Zs that I hear complain about the the necessities of being a human.
Right.
It's like I'm trying really hard not to go on a rant because like it's aggravating. It's aggravating. But I think some of the stresses that Gen Zs have is that they have everything at their fingertips all the time. They never shut off. They never go out and appreciate nature, and they're always chasing after the trend. I think would be the biggest issue for them. We're always worried about, oh, what's the next thing to do on TikTok? Oh, how do I get famous doing this? How do I, you know what I mean? You're not responding to
Oh, I said, yeah.
that.
I acknowledge. I think abundance is definitely. Ah, man, I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, abundance is an issue, because it comes at a price of. Like, I feel like it's fine to have abundance. We have so much internet content. We have so much food. We have so much stuff, and we're never taught how to self-control and kind of take everything with a scale and a balance. But I think a lot of the Gen Zs don't um, kind of have that control over, which is maybe causing a lot of the stress from their part, maybe knowingly, unknowingly for them, because they're not even aware that so much of their thinking is not their own, but it's like influenced by what they saw on TikTok or what they heard from like a YouTube video.
Yeah, and they believe that
And
it's real.
yeah, yeah,
Like that's
exactly. And
that's fact right there. It's like no, it's
yeah, yeah,
not.
yeah. And that's exactly true for like boomers were brought with like I
News and
guess kind of
television.
yeah, like I guess talking about truth and fact, like boomers were taught like they had an aberration from like I guess the godly truth, the ultimate truth to like science being the truth. And then
Hmm.
for millennials, I think that would like we're shifting a little bit between that. And for Gen Z, it's like relativism. Like everything is relative. There's no absolute truth. My truth is my truth. Your truth is your truth. So everyone, let's just be your own truth machine. And
That's
that just
interesting.
become yeah, that just becomes such a chaos because there's nothing that unites people anymore.
Huh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's very true.
Mm.
Huh.
But I do like empathize with them because like how can you build your character if everything's available for you? Because I feel like personality is forged from hardships, and if you're not going through a lot of hardships, like do you purposely put yourself in a hard situation and kind of build yourself off of that? Like I kind of feel for that kind of lack of experience from their
But it all,
life.
I guess so, but it falls to the parents too then. Like some parents just give in to their children and then their children don't learn any lessons because they want their children to shut up,
Right.
right?
And their parents are Gen X's, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's unfortunate, like not all Gen X parents are like that because I know some that are very good and are very good parents,
Mhm.
but there's some that I see in public and I'm just like, why? Just
Like
leave. Like
like what?
a kid wants something and the kid throws a little hissy fit because he or she is not getting what they want, and so the parent just gives in and it's just like no, because like so I don't know if I should say this story, but I'm gonna try and sugarcoat it. So I was in food basics and
Okay.
I was getting my stuff that I needed, and this family, this little boy keeps grabbing at stuff. Mommy, I want this. Mommy, I want that. And she keeps trying to put it back. And then all of a sudden he starts losing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm going to have to listen to this kid. And the mom panics and says, fine, get whatever you want. And so he starts putting stuff in the cart.
Hmm.
And then she's like, oh, not that. Well, then he loses his shit again. And so she's like, okay, fine. And then puts it in. And it's like, if I think I'm built different, I was raised different,
Right.
or maybe I'm just not in that predicament where I don't know how she feels, right? But I would be like, okay, you want this, and you're gonna throw a hissy fit. I guess we're going home, and we're not gonna have any groceries.
Mm.
You're gonna have to tell dad, or you're gonna have to tell mom
Yeah.
why we're here, why we're coming home without groceries.
Yeah. You hate a weak parent, right? Like that's
Yeah, like going back to our last video about talking about like being a a good husband or a good father. It's I think like you just don't know how to handle stress, honestly. Like you don't know how to handle your kid crying in public. So what if your kid embarrasses you? Remove the child from public. Like
right.
my dad would in a heartbeat would just pick me up and say, "Okay, we're going home. You don't get any of this." Like it's I don't know. Maybe we're built different. But yeah,
Built for
you look forward to me having a kid?
no, built for tough.
Oh.
You know, like
Yeah.
slogan that
Yeah.
Ford has.
He's
So
built different.
yeah, I agree. I think there was a Louis C.K. who said like to a weak parent, it's like you're raising Hitler, which is like
That's
because like as a weak parent, like you're letting your child be a psychopath basically if you keep letting that happen. And
that's a little
going back to
aggressive.
our discussion about like stress, like we talked about like all the generations and the state of our world, which
Hmm.
is like how stress trickles down to all of the different generations. And maybe given the state, maybe we can talk about how people address them and a lot of the reasons why it comes out differently. Like we see this in like celebrities too, where like I don't know, like Kurt Cobain. Like I think from Nirvana, like he was like stressed from being so popular, and
And
like I
cocaine.
remember watching one of his video that like he never expected him to be this famous, and he never wanted to be, and people were always like going up to him saying like, "Oh, like you're the greatest." band ever in the whole world, and he hated hearing that.
Mm.
And then obviously we know what happened to him. Like he like ended up suiciding. Um, and a lot of people, a lot of celebrities like fall to substance abuse and like anger fits.
Hmm.
So like what do you have an experience on how you have dealt with stress in a bad way?
Am I allowed to say this?
Well, let's be, I don't know, use your own discretion, man. However, that might help other people.
Okay, so where should I start? When I was 18, I had a lot of anger issues with um, like family matters, and I didn't. I, basically, I didn't know how to handle the stress of life at this time, and so the one day, I was. I think I finished work. I was working in a factory, and I finished work. I was driving home, and it was just like I just had a bad day, and so I'm on my way home, and this guy's riding, like tailgating me, and I'm like, I can't handle this. Like, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna basically in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
And so I uh I try to speed up and kind of get into the 2 lane area of the road so I can move over. Well, I move over, and this guy moves over right behind me, and I'm like, okay, stay calm. You don't need to go to jail. You'll be fine. Just keep driving. Do the speed limit. He'll eventually pass. Well, this guy decides to pass me, flips me off, starts yelling at me. So I get a little bit more angry, and then uh, I end up going to the gas station. So I was like, I need gas, whatever. So I go to the gas station, and I park. I start putting gas, and I feel a figure coming around the corner, like someone walking. And sure enough, it's that guy. Starts yelling in my face. I'm just pumping gas, and I I told him, like, man, just like leave me alone. Like, I've had a bad day. Please leave me alone. And just the stress of the day, the stress of the week, like I had a lot of debt to take care. Like, all this stuff is like filling my head, right? And so I finish. I pay for the gas inside. I come back out. He's still there, and he's leaning up against my car. And I plainly told him, I'm like, I give you 2 options. One, you walk away, or two, I remove you from my car. Which one do you want? And he obviously chose the second solution, and I just lashed out and basically choked him out and other things. And it was a really bad decision.
So your reaction to stress was
La-
aggression,
yeah,
anger,
back
right?
then, back then, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's remove yourself from the situation. It's not that person's fault. Like, you need to check yourself. You're a grown man. Like, take a breath.
Yeah.
And but back then, like, I handled stress so poorly. It's so bad. Do you have a time where you kind of handled it poorly that you can share, or?
Yeah, um I think aggression, I can relate to that a little bit where uh I think on both sides I have a story about aggression, and I have a story about just being like just depressed. Um
Okay.
and a lot of it was family, like you family related.
Hmm.
And I think this was when like my mom was going through menopause, and she was just being
Sorry.
super like illogical. And yeah, it got really bad. And yeah, um I used to do this when I was in my teens, but it showed not recently, but like when she went through that too. But like I would punch walls. There was a lot of walls where I had holes in it, and I feel like that's a pretty typical guy story. But
Yep.
yeah, like I would punch until like I start bleeding, and like just so that I can take my mind off of that into like a physical pain. Um,
But
and
that's all
then
you. But that's all you knew, right? Like you weren't taught.
yeah, like I don't know how to get like it's just a lot of something builds up and you just don't know what to do with it, and then there
And
goes
then,
my face.
yeah, and then you redline.
Right. And then I think another side to that was for like instant based, where it's like something happened. Um, I that would come out like that, but for something that kind of drags out for a long period of time, very like slow cut.
Hmm.
I do get I did get depressed about that, and I would just get into very just careless. I don't care about anything. Like nobody cares about me. Blah blah blah. Like that kind of mindset.
Like, why should I care about anything? Because no one cares about me. I'm all alone.
Yeah, yeah.
How'd you handle that? How'd you get out of that?
So
I think that would help like someone that's listening. Honestly,
yeah, um, I don't know if people will like hearing this because it sounds bad, but when I got like depressed, I think the source of it was that I was self-conceited.
what do you
Like
mean?
what I
What do you
mean
mean
by
by that?
that,
Yeah.
yeah. So what I mean by that was, oh, like nobody loves me. Like that's kind of my thought, or like nobody cares about me. Nobody like blah blah blah. But your that statement alone implies that you are entitled to be loved. You're entitled to be liked. But like, who makes you say that you are? So when I kind of realized that like it's not something that I'm entitled to, but it's something that in life it's something that happens to me if someone does like me or love me. So it's kind of breaking out of that mindset of like self-conceitedness of, oh, like
It's all about you.
yeah, yeah, it's not all about me. Yeah.
That's fair. Like, that's actually a good way to potentially help someone. Honestly, there's a lot of people, myself included, when people get depressed, it's, oh, I'm not loved. People don't love me. Oh, I have all these bad things happening to me, and makes it a basically a pride issue,
Mhm.
like, or like you said, a conceited issue where it's,
Yeah.
I'm the one that's hurting.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but everyone's hurting in
Yeah.
some form.
It's
It's
true.
and it depends. It all depends on how you deal with it. How do you handle the stress of being depressed, or how do you handle the stress of life, basically? Like, everyone has those days where you don't want to do life. You're just like, I just want to take the day off. I want to do my own thing. I just want to go for a walk, just be with myself, and those are okay. Like, don't get me wrong, those are perfectly okay. I do
Yeah.
them. But if you start internalizing that it's all about you, it's you're going down a slippery slope. Like, you, at that point in time, you need to talk to someone about it. Whether it is about you, or you make it only about you, and all this stuff. Like, for example, you when you're say you have a lot of debt, and this debt hangs over you constantly. You get creditors calling, you get collections calling, all that stuff. So the stress builds up and builds up and builds up, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's all my fault. No one can help me. No one wants to help me. No one loves me. Because honestly, I've been there. I've been through that. And it's, you have to force yourself, take a step back, and talk to someone. I think that's the biggest thing.
Mhm.
Because if you internalize it, well, guess where it's gonna go? It's not gonna release from you. It's just gonna keep growing and growing and growing. So you have to talk to someone. Like, Not to go into too much detail, but before the call, you talked to me about something personal. How do you feel after you talk to me?
Yeah, a little better.
Right? Like it's not hard. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. You don't have to go into your life story, but you just have to talk, right? And even if like you don't have to talk to a person, you could even uh if you are so inclined, you can have a conversation with God. Like you don't have to do all the Lord and Almighty and all this stuff. You just literally have a conversation with God. Like I told my dad, what was it? Saturday? Uh, Sunday. Sunday. His anxiety was really high, and he was running out of options because his doctor's getting him on different meds, all these things, and I'm like Dad, chill out. Everything will be fine. And he kept like, I tried this, I've tried that, it's not going away, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not going anywhere. Like the only way you're gonna get past it is if you accept it and you move forward.
Mm.
And he's like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, well, have you ever had a conversation with someone?
Right.
And he's like, well, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, okay, how about this? You go into the backyard, you go and look at nature because we have forest all over there. So go do your little perimeter walk they usually do, and literally out loud talk to God. Even if you don't believe he's there, just talk to him as if he's there. Watch what happens. And it's crazy. Like I do it all the time.
Mm. So how do you handle stress in your
Uh,
actually I want to make a note before we talk about like some of the remedies that are around stress and
okay.
what I see a pattern in people that are stressed because being stressed can be something that we talked about aggression and like depression a little bit and
Hmm.
aggression almost comes out when something bad happens in a huge magnitude at a certain incident, but there's a difference when you're stressed for such long period of time. Say like you work at a job that's stressful for 2 3 5 years or 10 years and
Hmm.
like work induced stress for a long period of time I think has enough of an impact to change a person and their personality. And what a lot of people underlook is that a little bit of stress for that one day like adds up. So being self-aware to not put yourself in a position where always constantly hammered into one stressful moment because at a long period of time you're like wondering how did I become this person? It's just you just weren't self-aware on what was happening in your life and you didn't take responsibility to either change a job or say something or do something about stress, and that can be about work, that can be about relationships, that can be about anything. Like a lot of people just let it slide, which builds up into this one gigantic monster.
So do you think that this is just me off the cuff, but
Mhm.
do you think that the reason people let it build is because they don't want to face the fact, like handle
I
their
think it's
stuff?
partly that, and I think another part which might be a good like dovetail into this is they just don't know how to deal with it. They just never were taught how to deal with it. Similar to when we talked about earlier about a millennial not knowing how to deal with stress is we don't like stress is a matter of fact. It's something that happens, is
Hmm.
part of life, but we're not necessarily taught how to kind of handle them. So, like for you, Anthony, how do you deal with the stress?
Well, I hope you're ready because you're gonna have to buckle up for this one.
Okay, is it chicken nuggets?
I love chicken nuggets. No, not chicken nuggets. I'm gonna actually give you ways that you can literally apply this to your life right now. So one is when you're stressed or when I'm stressed, I kind of look at the different areas of where the stress is coming from, and figure out where specifically the stress is coming from. For example, um, I'm stressed about my, well, it started with parents. I'm stressed about my parents. Why am I stressed about my parents? Well, they're very fearful of COVID and whatnot, which in their own right is fine. But then on top of that, they treat me like a germ. Like I'm a walking germ. Well, that's stressful. It makes me mad. It's like I'm I'm your son, and you treat me like this, right? But we'll establish that one. And then on top of that, my dad has or I guess growing anxiety. Well, that's stress number two. And the way I handle it is I this is not my burden to bear. So I need to release it. I need to let it go and give it back because this is not my problem. And a lot of people make it their problem, and that's where the stress comes from. So when we'll continue with this example. So when my parents treat me like a germ or whatever, I acknowledge that they're afraid,
Hmm.
but then I also remove myself from the situation. I don't let it fester. I don't like engage in that. I don't say, well, why am I a germ? Like I'm supposed like and just lash out. Like it doesn't solve anything. So I remove myself from the situation. So there's two things you could do there. Now with my dad, I understand that he's going through this, and I understand fairly well because I have the same sort of thing, but I have depression where he has anxiety. So I kind of empathize there, but it stresses me out, and then I figure out that that stress is because I care. I care so much about my dad that is stressing me out. I don't want him to hurt. I wish I could have that hurt, right? So how do I handle that is I initiate conversation to help him, which then will help me. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
because I understand that I'm stressed that he is in pain,
Yeah.
how do I solve or how do I help with his pain to help with my stress?
Right.
Well, I have to talk to him. I have to figure out how he's feeling and maybe I can help.
Right.
But even just talking to him helps him because now he sees that I understand what he's going through,
Mm.
which then releases some of his stress. And I've
Okay.
seen it.
Right.
So there's
So you,
go on.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
So your um reaction to stress is to find out.
Oops.
Sorry, let me start over. So how you handle stress is you find out the root cause of it and try to get to the bottom of it, and remove yourself from that situation. So almost kind of um, looking at it from a different perspective without you emotionally being attached to that situation. And you also try to be the initiator in discussing about them so that in return, that discussion helps you um, manage stress.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of people they they get so flustered with, oh, I'm so stressed, and that stress builds and builds and builds and builds to the point where they can't even generate thoughts.
Hmm.
That's where people go wrong. They just let it fester, let it build and build. Like when you were saying that you I forget the reason you got this, but you're getting depressed, and then that depression builds and builds and builds, right? Um, so what people need to do, and like it's gonna take a lot of effort, honestly, is you need to, as soon as you feel tension in your body or in your mind, attack it. Figure out why, and you'll be a lot happier person. Honestly, like
Hmm.
I'm willing to bet money on it. And because a lot of people, I don't mean to be uh like rude about it, but they're always about woe is me, pity party.
Yeah.
Even if it's just with themselves, they pity party with themselves,
Yeah.
and you gotta stop that. You just it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone else. So get out of it.
Right.
Whether it's a situation that you're put in, remove yourself from the situation. You have two legs and a heartbeat. Get walking. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If it's uh, something internal where you have depression and stuff, talk to someone. Initiate the conversation. Worst case scenario, they don't help you, but at least you talked, and that will help you. So basically, you have to help yourself.
Right.
And like all these things I've learned over since I was 18, 19, right? So what's that? 21 years? No, that's a lie. I'm not 40. 11
Right.
years. Math.
Yeah. Old.
I know. But you know what I mean? Like so one, talk. Two, don't sit in your woe is me pity party. And three, remove yourself from the situation.
Mhm.
Those are the biggest things that I tell people when they come to me and they're like, "Oh, like this happened with so and so." Then don't talk to them. Remove yourself from the situation. If they're not adding positivity to your life, remove yourself or have a conversation. It's not
Right.
hard.
Right.
Um, so on the flip side, because like I told you how to handle stress or how I personally handle stress. Uh, have you learned anything in your what are you 25, 26? Right,
26.
26. So in 26 years, have you learned anything from handling stress?
I the way that I approach stress is um very pragmatic and individualistic. I find that a lot of the times that I'm stressed is because, like you said, like I don't know how big the problem is, and that unknown can be the biggest fear. It's
It
like
could
the
be
movie Jaws.
debilitating.
Yeah, like it's like the movie Jaws when like the whole movie, like you basically don't see the shark, but as an audience, you kind of have that fear that the shark is the biggest thing ever. And that's sort of similar to how a lot of the times when I'm stressed, it's just like it kind of like puzzles me because I don't know what this issue is. And what I actually end up doing is I like draw out a piece of paper and draw three columns: things I know, things I'm not sure about, and things I don't know. And I start writing things down that I'm uncertain about. A lot of the times, like there's like one line on the things that I know,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of things that I don't know or I'm not sure about. And the moment I start writing them down and I see it in front of me, I see how small it is and I see how, like, sometimes, a lot of the times, how insignificant it is. And then that, in effect, helps me to kind of emotionally get to a place where I say, oh, like, this isn't even, like, it's not all bad. And now I get to kind of tackle it by, um, I don't know, trying a different method. Like now it seems like something I can tackle instead of just leaving things in your head and being like, I'm just gonna ignore what I have in my head and just walk around and not deal with it.
So you kind of how would you say that? You actually prioritize your stresses, right?
What do
Like
you mean?
so you write all the things down regarding a situation
Yeah.
or a problem, and you actualize the real issues, and then you determine the weight of those issues.
Right. Right. So, yeah, then I look through all of the things that I'm stressed about and scratch off the things that are ridiculous because a lot of the times it is, but it kind of adds up to that equation. And then I look at what it is that I'm the most stressed about and start drawing out plans on what I can do today to like gain an inch, what I can do tomorrow to gain an extra inch. So that's sort of how I deal with deal with stress.
That's awesome. I never actually thought about writing it down ever.
Hmm.
I think that would
Yeah,
help. I think that would help a lot of people, honestly.
yeah, I would say so too. Like it reduces um the fear aspect of it. I think, Anthony, for you, how you are addressing it and how other people might find it useful is you're very action driven. Like you like okay, you're stressed, like this is like what you do, this is what like kind of very task and action oriented. So if you operate in that way, that might be a good way to apply for like for yourself. And if you're more so like mentally you want to exercise and actually see for yourself what the issue is and then go for it, like that's another way to solve the issue too. And there's no right or wrong answer, I guess, but it's just how different people cope with it.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something new today. Did you?
I did too. Yeah. Look at us idiots learning about something.
Right? My
Yeah,
goodness.
we are
Idi-
evolving.
Idiots can learn too. Um, but yeah, like going forward, if anyone that's viewing this or watching it, or anyone that's tuning in right now, if you ever have a question, or if you like what stresses you out, let us know. Put it in the comments. We'd love to hear about it, because then we can actually elaborate and maybe we can actually help you. Or maybe, like, I don't know, we can have a discussion about it. It's stuff like this that people don't realize, that you just need to talk to someone, or you need to just initiate something. So like, if you what stresses you out, let us know, honestly. But going there, the next Tuesday at 8 p.m. hopefully, because I was late, I'm sorry. But next Tuesday we're actually going to dive a little deeper of in this series, what is your capacity? But we're actually going to talk about what is your capacity to handle lack of sleep, which then also adds to stress. So like, in the comments below, let us know what uh, what stresses you have, or what pet peeves you have that add to your day. And at the beginning of the next show, we can actually go through it and see if we can actually help you guys, honestly. um
I like it.
yeah, right, like it's the goal of this show, the goal of this podcast is to hopefully help someone, to hopefully trigger something where we, we can add value to someone's life. And so far it's been going really well, I think. I've had many people ask me, well, within my friend circle that watch our videos, like, I didn't know that this could be this, or how do you handle this in this situation? Like, it's interesting. It's awesome that we're actually making an impact. And um, if if we can help you, and if you think that we can help you, let us know. Honestly, we're all ears. We're here. We're ready to help. But next time, uh, what date is that? So June 15th, we're going to be talking about what is your capacity to handle lack of sleep. And um, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting because I don't sleep well. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm looking forward to that one too because that relates to me. Because I have days where I don't sleep a lot at all and I'm fine. I have days where I need more than 8. So it'll be a good, interesting topic to talk about. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah. So we're actually going to get going. We have stuff to do before the end of the night, but thank you all for tuning in. And if you get a chance, please like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. But yeah, until next time, peace out.
See ya.